Today on the Pro-Life Podcast, are you ready in case of a medical emergency? I know putting those documents together feels like doing your taxes, but what if it wasn't? What if it was a simple app on your phone? Well, today's guests have that app. We're going to talk about it. Let's get started. Happy Tuesday, Pro-Life family. Pull up a chair, grab your coffee. Well, John and I got ours. I'll introduce the cast of characters today. Kim Schwartz, Media Communications Director. Dr. John Seago, President Dr. John Seago. And the two guests joining us today, Rob Deubell. Yes. Yeah. Deubell. And Bobby Schindler. Thank you guys for joining us. So pleasure. You guys have a project you've been working on, and it really relates, for those who may know Bobby Schindler and his story. Let's tell a little bit of your story, because you are Terry Schiavo's brother.
Right. Many people watching might remember, it has been, we're going on almost 20 years. It'll be 18 years in March. But it received a lot of national and international attention. It was basically our family's battle to try and continue care for my sister, which was only food and water. Terry's estranged husband at the time petitioned the courts, and this was way back in the 2000s, to stop her, to remove her feeding tube, to deny her food and hydration. And it was a long, protracted legal battle. It actually started back in the early 90s, but it started making news more towards 2004, 2005. And we were unsuccessful. Terry's feeding tube was removed on March 18th, 2005. Next 14 days, she went through a horribly barbaric death by starvation and dehydration. She died on March 31st. And in response to that, our family decided that with our experience advocating for Terry, we wanted to continue to do that for the medically vulnerable, for the people who were brain injured like Terry, and really serve as patient advocates to try and help them receive the treatment that they need. Because we saw a lot of the problems that were occurring during my sister's battle. And so since that time, since 2005, we've been working every day, not only to help families that call us for help, but we also try and do our best to really provide education and really get a better understanding of an issue that's widely misunderstood. Yeah. And that's kind of what brought us here today.
And Bobby has partnered with Texas Right to Life on legislative issues, on education issues. We've had him at all of our student, training when we have boots on the ground, our student training conference. He's come to the Capitol to testify for our pro-life bills, to testify against some bad bills, and so he's been a great partner in. And I would say, there's only really about half a dozen around the country, about half a dozen groups or figures that really connect the dots of pro-life convictions and patients' rights. And these issues are the reason we care so deeply about these issues is because the same reason we care about elective abortion, the same reason we want to protect.
John and I have shared our frustration. There is so little attention being paid to this very serious problem we're having in the healthcare system today. And so because there is so few people that are out there actually recognizing the problem, like the Wesley Smiths of the world, and your organization, obviously.
And I think the euthanasia movement really relies on people not paying attention because largely, that's how we've got Roe v. Wade, is people were just not paying attention. They thought that this wasn't an important issue, and we especially see it with the euthanasia movement. Yeah. They're making some serious grounds in other states about pushing very anti-life legislation. They've got some very anti-life legislation in Texas, and it's just this really prominent ethic that if people don't pay attention to it and stop it, it could happen to you, and you never expect to be the one to call Bobby's nonprofit, but that's who you get, people who got in a drowning accident or a car accident, or Terry just collapsed, right?
Yes, we still know. But I think that one of the problems that we're confronting here, and tell me if you agree, is when people think the two pro-life issues, they think abortion and assisted suicide. When it comes to euthanasia, it seems to me people think, euthanasia is that's the assisted suicide issue, and that is a problem we need to push back. And I think there's groups out there that are doing a great job pushing back on assisted suicide expanding, but there's a whole part of this issue that I don't think people really understand the seriousness of it and how much our medical rights are being eroded. Where now we can't be guaranteed life-affirming care when we get into a hospital setting.
Right. So when we think about, protecting our loved ones in hospitals and, making sure that we're protected in hospitals, we have these tools like advance directive, like medical power of attorney that we've been talking about. And you guys saw there's something missing. These tools are not adequate. So, what kind of void are we trying to fill here with this new project?
So first of all, the first thing we noticed is, if you look at it, very few Americans have ever even filled out a healthcare durable power of attorney. So we've probably heard it. I mean, even the secular sources like Harvard Health and Forbes and a bunch of others have said, hey, this is the one document that every 18-year-old should have, right?
Yeah.
Along with the pro-life organizations too. And there's pro-life versions of this out there. Having said that, I think I read a stat, it was like less than a third have ever filled it out, okay? And then of those, the vast majority have no idea where it is, okay? So if you're like us, I've got it sitting in a stack of papers somewhere, this is the old school way. And then what happens is you're actually in a crisis. We talked about this before, Kim, like with your mom, right? It's like, okay, so you're in a crisis and you're rushing off to do this kind of stuff, and then you have to go try to dig and figure out where this thing was. Maybe you've moved houses since then, maybe whatever. So it's a nightmare.
Yeah. I work here, and I've known that I need to have a medical power of attorney document. I procrastinated on it because I was like, you know what? It's just going to take forever to go get that document and try to think through of what information I need to put on there. So finally, I bit the bullet and I did it, and it was a lot easier than I thought it was. I'm really excited for this MyLifeAngels app to make sure that I can have that there on my phone. So if you don't have it, it'll help you create it, and it'll help you, just have it on hand, because part of the problem, especially for me, is if I get a call that says my mom has just been in a car wreck, my first thought, I guarantee you, is not going to be, let me run to my apartment and grab that document and then I'll head over there, because my mom lives 6 hours away. That is not going to be the first thought on my mind. So that makes sense.
So what is MyLifeAngels? What did you guys kind of figure out this is going to fill the gap?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob, and then I can just...
Okay, well, I think a couple other things that were kind of missing from the equation, then I'll lead into that. But it's the other thing that was missing is okay, so you have a document, right? But it all, hand in hand with that, has to be the conversations with your family. You have to have something, and if you're like most people, then you fill out the document, it goes someplace, you don't really even talk about it or whatever. and we as pro-lifers, you want the family to know, hey, listen, I want these things to be done for me, right? And for parents, you want to make sure your children and your 18 plus children, one of the things is once they turn 18, you have no rights. Yeah. So they're off at college. The parents don't have any rights at that point, right? So you want to make sure these conversations are had, that everybody has this documented. So as it leads into MyLifeAngels, there was another side of this that we haven't talked about yet, and that is, I went out and got some patents around this, thought up okay, what could even make this more valuable, and how do we make this automated? And so one thing is to have the document, but how do you know that something did happen? So we're talking about somebody that, what if they were critically injured? The number one cause of death and ICU admissions for younger, under 55, are accidents. That's number one. So they're not going to be speaking for themselves. You have no idea where they are. We've talked to ER physicians, across the country, and the common theme was, we're not geared up to play detective to try to figure out who these families are. A driver's license is one thing. It's got your name on it and it might have your address, but most of us today use our mobile phones. Your mobile phone number is not on there. And you Google the person's name, and if it's a common name, you're out of luck. Or even if it's specific, you try to find out what their phone number is, they're not going to list the mobile phone typically, So they said it's a big problem if we have somebody that comes in and can't speak. So the patent really it was related to automatic detection. The moment that you come into an emergency room, you have the app on your phone. It detects that you're there. A message pops up on your phone along with, there's an auditory piece too that has a sound to it that you'll recognize. And it asks, are you okay? We recognize you're at, example, Mercy Hospital. Are you okay? And if you don't answer, or if you, click no, I'm not okay either way, then it actually sends immediate alerts out to your loved ones, to your family that you've already identified up front. Yeah. And we'll talk about it later about how all that happens. So they get this, and on their, on the text message, it has, Rob has not responded. He's at the Mercy emergency room. Here's the address. Here's the contact phone number. And here's a link to all of Rob's information, including their healthcare durable power of attorney. You click on that, it brings all of that up.
So this goes to the family member is seeing this on their phone.
On their phone.
Okay, yeah.
So in addition, the other thing that the patent did is that then what'll happen on the patient now, because they're in the hospital, on their phone is a different sound pops up, like an urgent sound for the ER staff. And the ER staff, even if the phone is locked, we have a technique in there that they can actually get to a QR code that they can scan, and actually has a message saying, scan this QR code for important information about this patient. And then it'll have things like, and some of these things are optional for when you're signing up with MyLifeAngels, but if you want to include things like, hey, I have these following drug allergies, like I'm allergic to penicillin or whatever it might be, you can list those things. It'll also have for the ER staff, here are my emergency contacts, here's my healthcare agent, here's their phone number, all those kinds of things right there. So they have that at their fingertips as well. So really what it tried to do is it's come up with a solution that detects the problem, informs the family members, and then the so what. The so what is like now they have everything they need legally to be able to fight for you, to be able to speak on your behalf, right there at their fingertips on their phone.
Wow.
So.
No, we recognized, and Rob has said this so much, but when we started this work advocating for patients, the one thing I saw with the problems happening in our healthcare system is filling out an advance directive, which is different from a durable power of attorney, can be potentially very problematic. If you do get it and present it to healthcare, someone in the healthcare profession, because a doctor or a medical professional can interpret those types of the questionnaires that you ask about your medical decisions. They can basically interpret it the way they want to.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's significantly important. What we're developing here is the importance of identifying a durable power of attorney, a healthcare agent that's going to speak for you.
Yeah.
Your family will know your medical history and what you want and don't want, but that needs to be separate from the medical professionals knowing those questions. That's just for your family members and your agent.
Yeah.
The only thing that with this what we're developing here, the only thing that the medical people will see is who your agent's going to be advocating for you if you're unable to speak for yourself.
So I could have an advance directive where I am telling my doctor I want a ventilator, if the benefit outweighs the burden of it.
Right.
Okay, so he hears that. So he hears that.
Burden.
He's going to read that differently and think, well, what is the burden? What is the benefit? My wife, if I tell her that, she's going to think, well, of course, John thinks staying alive is a benefit that weighs outweighs discomfort.
Of Texas right to life.
So my wife will be even something as vague as that. Now I recommend being more specific than that, but even something vague, it's different if my wife is interpreting that than if just some random ER doc who doesn't know me, doesn't know my values, my background.
John, it's why when you get into say you enter a hospital, one of the first things they do, they're pushing the hospital's version of a medical directive on you. Mm-hmm. They want you to answer these questions right then and there. I urge people don't. You don't have to sign those things or fill those out. I would ignore them and say no. With this, they'll have it.
Yeah,
and
it's a real problem, Bobby.
A huge problem.
I mean, they're known as MOLST or POLST.
Yes.
They're either physician orders or medical orders for life-sustaining treatment.
Yeah.
That's what they say. And then you check off these boxes. What they were originally intended, the intent also is questionable. But the original intent was, if in your last days of life, okay, what things do you want or don't want? Well, they're being misused now, and they're being given to pretty much all patients, in a lot of cases, adult patients at some hospitals.
Well, it's required by federal law.
Yeah.
I mean, so back in the 90s, we wanted to heighten patient autonomy and patients' rights. And so we have a federal law that says, the hospital on admission, I have to ask you, do you want an advance directive? Well, do you have one? And do you want to fill one out? But it's become, like you're saying, this more dangerous trend of, here, just sign this document we wrote for you that has our ethics in it.
What could go wrong?
Not a single thing.
And I think the problem is that the person doesn't know that they don't have to fill that out.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a problem.
So 2 points about that. One is that our healthcare durable power of attorney, which we've actually had pro-life lawyers scrutinize very closely, we make sure that there's some language that says, if I have ever signed one of those forms, it is invalidated at this point. This supersedes all of that.
4D chess right there.
So it's a big deal. And then the other thing, circling back to the one thing that Bobby said about the physician. So studies will show that, and sometimes it's not even intent. Sometimes it's not even, which a lot of cases it is their worldview or whatever it might be. But sometimes it's just that they're busy. You can imagine they're dealing with crisis all day long. Yeah. They see a document and they're used to this document being a DNR or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they look at this quickly and they like, oh, this is another DNR. And actually, I've read studies about how that happened. They did one with medical students that came in and also with physicians that were on the rounds, and it showed that across the board there were huge mistakes made from that they thought that the document was a DNR document when it said I want to have life-sustaining treatment.
It basically comes down to, if you're in a crisis, if you get into an emergency situation, you want a strong, heroic type advocate speaking for you and fighting for you if the need arises where that has to happen. But and we saw that. This is kind of how the genesis of that is, the importance of having an advocate by your side.
Well, you've seen that throughout what you've done with the foundation. I mean, over and over, right? When
many stories, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there are many more stories to share, and also how to get started with this app, and we need to cover that. But we have some events we need to talk about real quick, so we're going to take a quick break for this other information. Come to our annual Celebration of Life Gala in Houston and celebrate the end of Roe v. Wade. Join us on Saturday, October 29th. We are so excited to announce our keynote speaker, former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, will be giving an amazing speech. Our battle has only just begun now that Roe has been reversed, and the pro-life movement needs you more than ever in this current era. Seats are filling fast, so follow the link in the description below to secure your tickets, and I hope to see you there Saturday, October 29th.
Save the date for Boots on the Ground. It's an awesome pro-life conference coming up January 28th and 29th. Come to Austin, Texas with us to march to the Capitol to celebrate the end of Roe v. Wade, to commemorate Roe v. Wade, and to learn from expert pro-life speakers on how to keep Texas pro-life forever. Come to Austin with us and hear from Ryan Baumberger, our keynote speaker who shares his personal story, and so much more. Book your tickets today, bootsonthegroundtx.com. See you in January.
Welcome back, friends. I'm really excited about Boots on the Ground this year. That's actually how I met Bobby some years ago. He spoke at our conference. So you get really awesome speakers like Bobby Schindler at our conference. Okay, gentlemen, we talked why you need this app. Let's talk about how. How do we get started with this thing?
That sounds great. So it's super easy. You go to MyLifeAngels.com. You can learn more about the app there. We've got videos that I think kind of explain more about why a family would need this, and then also kind of specific touch points like you've got a teen driver. Why is it important for that? You have a college age child, 18 plus. We talked about that before about you don't have any rights at that stage unless if you have a healthcare durable power of attorney.
You have aging parents. I've run into this one not too terribly long ago.
Yes, so that we have
videos one
videos
off the ER and we got to chase down where.
That's right, exactly. So we have all those videos. You can learn more, and then we've got a place for you to sign up, learn more about the app, and sign up there. Once you do, the way this is built is that anything can be filled out on the web. We've got a web app. So it walk you through everything there. Also on an iPhone,
okay, great.
Or an Android device. So you would go to Google Play for that. And no matter where you start, you could actually decide you're going to complete it in the other spot. So you might start out on the web, fill out some of the information, and then when you get time, you pull up the app and you go in there and do that. In the end, you're going to want to get the app too, because the app will be the thing that does the emergency detection for the when you walk into an emergency room. So that's how it works. And once you actually sign up, we made it super simple. So it walks through, it just steps you through questions, and you can go to the next step. So for example, you'll go through like the medical history if that's something you want a physician to know about, like allergies to medications, things like that. But that's optional. It says right there, you can skip it. So if you don't want to fill it out, you don't have to.
Fill it out later.
And then the stuff for the family, the things you want your family to know.
Yeah.
Like I definitely want to have full measures, if you want to do that. All of our positions are pro-life. So if you decide that you're not sure yet, you want to learn more, you could skip the question, at a particular time.
Yeah.
When you finish this, then it basically knows that, okay, so Rob, I live in Ohio. So in my case, it would bring up the Ohio-specific healthcare durable power of attorney automatically. So in your case, obviously, it's going to be Texas, John. So it would know that, and for our listeners, it's going to be Texas. So it's going to bring up that. The only difference between the two is that Texas and Ohio both actually have specific language mandated by the state that has to be included as intro language, just kind of explaining what the whole thing is.
Right.
So that's all done. Then after you do that, then there's a place for you to print out the HDPA. One of the things that the lawyers in reviewing all this said that even though the whole culture is moving towards more online signatures, the one document that has not gotten there yet happens to be this document, which I think is good because it means that there's more emphasis on this, more scrutiny around it. And so it has to be a physical signature. So we got a place to print it. And then you sign. In Texas, it would be, 2 witnesses, and it tells you exactly who can and cannot be your witnesses for that.
Yeah.
You go through and you sign and you have it witnessed. And then you could do it one of 2 different ways. So we have in the mobile app, there's a built-in scanner. And if you've ever used like a check deposit, online, it's a lot like that. You basically just hold your phone over the top and it automatically captures it. You move to the next page. And then when you're finished, you just click done, and that's it. It's as easy as that. You've got it. Now on the web, you can also, like if you wanted to, if your printer at home has a scanner, you could scan it in that way, upload it. But either way, then it's all set. So then, part of I skipped over one step. I'm sorry. So part of it is you'll want to decide who's going to be my healthcare agent, and then who's my the overall care circle. So care circle is basically your healthcare agent and then emergency contacts. Like who do you want to have notified in case if you're in the emergency room? So we have different plans. We've got one for individuals. We got one for a married couple. And then we've got one for a family. So for the family, a mom could go in and she could sign the whole family up, and she could fill out as much as she wants up front. Now, in the end, to kind of make sure that, she didn't make all the decisions completely, because, in the end, the 18-plus child or her spouse needs to look at it, verify it. And so it gets passed over. There's an automatic thing that happens there where it gets passed over to them. They get the invite. They can fill out the rest or just verify the information's good for them, do the same thing, print it out, and then use the app to scan in the pages. It's that easy. Once that's done, you've got everything right there. So you've got your care circle set up. You've got your healthcare durable power of attorney that's good for your state. And then once you've downloaded the mobile app, if you've done that, then and there'll be a spot on there that has you turn on like location services to know where you are.
Yep.
It tells you exactly, what that's doing. And then the notifications, there's another thing, you just slide it over, say, yes, I want notifications. At that point forward, then you're protected, your family's protected, and all of this just works.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've really thought of everything in that process.
Coming
that
from
is
an IT
from the
guy.
techie is like, that's about as dang simple as you could possibly make it.
Now, one thing I do want to bring up is because I know we're all worried about security of documents. So
Yes.
that's one of the things that we do. We store this in a secure server. I have a whole IT staff that has analyzed this, scrutinized it completely. And so all those documents, nobody else can access any of those documents. They can't change the documents. You as the user yourself, you're the only one that can change it. And if you change it, it can't be done on the fly. I mean, you could change it. Like I could decide that because of some life change, I'm going to have a different healthcare agent I'm going to appoint, right? You could do that, but then you have to submit a new one, which is easy. We just walk through that process. And then there'll be a process for approval of that. We validate to make sure, when they come through, that they did in fact have the two witnesses, for example.
Okay.
There's like four.
So there's
a few states that require the what am I thinking of, the notary to go through and notarize it, but not Texas is not one of those states. But so you go through that. We just verify that you got all the information on there correct too, and then once we just approve, then it's done.
Yeah.
It's in your
Cool.
So, Bobby, this is a great tool, and practically speaking, the cases that we get, our patient advocacy, hotline, our patient advocacy team, this would be a world of difference for the families that they represent. So practically, the cases that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, people call you and you guys work as patient advocates. Practically, how would those cases go differently if these families had this tool?
Well, I mean, I can't emphasize how important it is to have that information right there instantaneously.
Yeah.
And then your care circle, your agent, and any other family members that are contacted immediately, because time is of essence in some of these crisis situations, and this solves that problem. For everything we're talking about here today, and I just want to mention too, John, and we can get into some specific cases if you want on why this is so important. But a big part of what we're doing here, along with everything that Rob was talking about, is the educational component in all this.
Yeah.
On the website, we feel as though, and been doing this for so long, how important it is for people to understand and educate themselves on everything we're talking about here today. And the website provides that for them in a way that anybody can read it and understand. So that's just as invaluable and important, and can't emphasize that enough on that part of what we're offering here today, along with having all this information at your disposal. So
I mean, I studied bioethics. I read books about this. I take these books to the beach whenever our family goes on vacation. I love talking about this stuff. I have heard that others don't.
What?
And that some of my friends are, the idea of having these hard conversations with their wife or with their parents, their elderly parents, like that is not a joy-filled
It's about as enticing as doing your taxes.
And so you're right. I mean, this gives you a step-by-step, okay, here are the questions you need to ask. Here are the conversations, starting with the very basic one of, who do you want in here?
Well, and the one thing, and you're right, John, I think it's a lot of fear. People don't want to deal with these issues and confront them, and it's why they kind of are hesitant on filling these types of documents out. Understandable. But the one thing that I'm so excited about this, that Rob had thought of, is this emergency detection, because, and people listening probably figured this out by now, but so if a mom filled this out for her college kids, and they have this available now. So if a college kid, say they're traveling to, I don't know, California, and something happens to them and they're admitted to the hospital, well, the mom is going to get and they're unconscious. So they're in a car accident while they're out there. Well, the mom's going to get a notice, and the father or whoever, the care circle, they're going to get a notice immediately. that their loved one has just been admitted to this, and it's going to give you exactly the hospital, the phone number, all the information for the parents, so they know instantaneously that their child has been admitted to the hospital. So that's
and then hand in hand with that, then have everything they need right there, the healthcare durable power of attorney to actually then be able to do something about it. And now I think to your point about this is I think you've hit on something. This is the reason why I feel like it's been less than a third that have ever even looked at a healthcare durable power of attorney, because they're like, I don't have to really worry about this yet. It's not, or, this is too difficult. We'll do it at some point, but I'm not going to do it now. I think the emergency alerts part are the thing that kind of will allow people to have these conversations. They're like, yeah, I could see that. That's really good. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of helping, and through the education too, helping them bring them along to the healthcare durable power of attorney, which we all need.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about before, even Harvard Health and Forbes have said that's something that you need, and if they're acknowledging that. So the bottom line is I think all this could change, will change the current reality that, we're all just like, I'll deal with this later.
It's it's not going to happen to me, right?
Yeah.
Well, it happened to our family. My sister, I saw her a few hours before her accident. She was perfectly fine. And then, a few hours later, we're getting a call, and she's getting taken to the emergency room. So we were completely in shock that this happened to my sister, and that's what families that experience these things, they never think it's going to happen to them. That's why it's so important that you take this seriously. It could be life and death if you don't have all these documents available when you need them.
What's unreal about this is none of us would ever think about driving without car insurance. Well, first of all, you're not allowed to; it's illegal. Right. But even if you were you still wouldn't. And then so that's number one. And life insurance, most of us that have families, you have some kind of life insurance policy, right? But then this is the one thing, I think this is now a way that they get everybody to be able to recognize and be able to do it, and it's easy.
Yeah. And so at Texas Right to Life, we talk a lot about our bad laws in Texas. I mean, we talk about our 10-day rule that allows a doctor to override a patient's decision or to override a surrogate. And that's a reality. And this doesn't solve that. We still have to make progress in that. But in a lot of the cases we get, the surrogates don't know what the patient would want. And so, but when we get cases and we're helping a family before it gets to the 10-day issue, I mean, we have just seen across the board, even, spouses don't know, well, we never had this conversation. Right. And in our law, it says your surrogate, who's there making decisions for you, is supposed to be doing it according to your preferences. And so there's kind of built into our laws, we do have a default kind of system of if you can't make decisions for yourself, your spouse is going to make them. If they're not available, your parents. If they're not available, your adult children. I mean, we have this line of people that are supposed to help, but because we haven't had these hard conversations, we didn't think it would happen to us. Even a spouse is like, well, I don't know what what my wife would have wanted. And so this is educating, it's helping in that, and then it is just, an invaluable tool.
Well, look at the two scenarios. Look at the two scenarios, John, that you just mentioned. One where a family is confronted with a crisis, their loved one, whatever scenario you want to describe. Say they're in a car accident, their loved one is in a crisis situation, and the family is scrambling. They don't know, they don't have any of these documents available. Yeah. They haven't had those hard conversations. Now they're dealing with medical professionals. They're asking them questions. They're talking about maybe stopping treatment, all these things, and the family is just, they have that one crisis. Now they have a crisis of trying to figure out what do they do. Yeah. As then you have the situation where they have all this information. They've had those conversations already. They have the information right there available to them on their phone, and now at least it eliminates that part of the crisis, right? Yes, they still have to deal with the person, the loved one who has, whatever accident they have experienced. But now at least that part of it, they know how to answer those types of questions.
And then one more part to this, I think we haven't even talked about this, so I'll make it quick, is like knowing what your rights are.
That's a huge part.
The right to a second opinion, like the right to a hospital transfer,
And I think that's where the educational part comes in, Rob. That's what we were going to provide for the people.
So when we're going and filling out those questions, built into the process is, okay, this is a topic I've never thought about. organ donation? Do I become a donor or not? What is the issue here? And your site has the resource for me to, for us to explore that more.
That's right. And it's available both on the website and within the app. Okay. So like if you're out and about, or if you're in one of these situations, you could be in the hospital with your loved one and you could search on the topic that you're dealing with right then and get the answer.
Nice.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I procrastinated on this so hard. Like, we made this amazing video about medical power of attorney a couple years ago. And since then, I kept thinking, like, I need this. But I am the biggest procrastinator of anyone. The idea that this makes it easy was just such a game changer for me. That's what motivated me to actually sit down and have these conversations with my family, to actually fill out the document. And I was shocked and almost ashamed of myself at how easy it actually was that I didn't do it sooner. Now, all squared away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really the best way you can protect yourself that's available.
Yeah.
Because you could no longer be guaranteed a life-affirming care.
Yeah. If you wait till you get to the hospital, the cards are already stacked against you. You cannot put the toothpaste back in the bottle.
The hospital
it's already
policies,
moving that way.
the laws, depending on what state you live in, you are vulnerable to a lot of things, decisions being made that are not in your best interest.
Yeah.
This is going to help you work to get decisions made that are in your best interest. And there's nothing else that we know of that's available that can provide that for the individual and the family.
Yeah. And that's what we've seen from our patient advocacy team is even when or our advocacy team, or we're in the hospital with the family and the family is advocating, they're doing everything, for their loved one that they can, they're still at a disadvantage because if they say, we want to continue treatment, doctors still have the, response of, well, did the patient ever tell you that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but I know they're pro-life, well, and so that could be used against us, even if you have the greatest advocate in the room. The doctors and this is not every doctor, this is not every hospital, but there are, the system is built to go with the recommendation of the physician. And so, the ethics committee, if it comes up in the conversation about stopping treatment, well, did they really say that? Did they say they would want a ventilator to continue even after 3 days? And it's like, well, no, they didn't say that, but he's a pro-life guy, So this is just
the president of Texas Right to Life.
Yeah. Just trust me on this.
Well, not all of us get to have Dr. Sego as our advocate.
Right.
So, but it's such an essential tool. I think that's why Texas Right to Life is so excited. Whenever you guys first, reached out to us to pitch this idea, I mean, we were just kind of blown away because we always talk about medical ethics. We always talk about valuing life in the ICU, how to make these hard decisions. And we always talk about this and people ask us like, well, what can we do? What do we do to protect ourselves? And we're kind of like, well, you got to get this really long document. Like, Kim was talking about,
you want to sit down
you got to
with a
fill
lawyer
this
for 10
out.
hours?
There's going to be words on that document you don't know. So call us and ask us questions. It is just like the barrier to this is so high, and MyLifeAngels makes it achievable. And
it's interesting, John, and I share this with Rob all the time. We've spoken quite a bit over the years, and I would kind of paint a scenario: what happened to Terry, what's happening in their families, the experiences we had running our nonprofit, and so at the end, you get people like you get their attention with what's happening.
Yeah,
like,
they're disturbed.
What can we do? What can we do? And then it's like, man, that's one of the most difficult questions to answer. What can you do? Well, you can educate yourself.
Right.
You can appoint a healthcare durable power of attorney, which can be very problematic. Can't find it. Where is it? You got to. So finally, now when we speak, they say, what can we do? What can we do? We have the answer.
Yeah.
We'll do this.
Yeah.
And this is going to help you in ways that was never available to help you before.
Praise the Lord. That's amazing. Well, thank you guys for everything that y'all have done with this app. I'm super, super excited for it. I'm telling all of my family, all of our friends. So you can be one of those friends.
Do you want to mention the website? Did we mention the website?
No. How do we find this app?
Okay, I'm not going to use the www, even though it is MyLifeAngels.com.
MyLifeAngels.com and all the appropriate app stores.
I think you just use the www. By saying you're not going to use a
I'm not going
www.
I knew to find a way to get in.
Oh my goodness.
It is on the World Wide Web, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
So Texas Right to Life is really excited to partner with these guys on MyLifeAngels, and we're promoting this product. We think that this app getting this service is going to be helpful for you. It's going to be helpful for your loved ones. I'm excited to use it. I'm going to badger my all of my family members, my parents to use this because even something silly. The other day, my dad went in for a minor surgery, but he didn't tell us. And I was like, Dad, we really got to work on our communication skills here. And, and so it's just, this and as a father, as a son, as a husband, this just gives me the confidence that our pro-life values are going to be represented. I'm going to be able to advocate for my loved ones. And I'm just so thankful for you guys for all you've invested in this. And we're really excited to partner with you.
And
guys.
we're so excited to partner with Texas Right to Life. I mean, when Bobby, we started brainstorming about who we wanted. This was the first one on our list.
I know how important you see these issues, and you guys were a natural for the first people we wanted to contact.
Awesome.
Yes.
Let's go.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Great conversation. So MyLifeAngels.com, and you can search My Life Angels in all the app stores, all those places where you get your other apps for your device. Well, thank you guys for watching. We love you. Share this with your friends and family because they need to fill out this paperwork too, and this will make it a whole lot easier than doing your taxes. So you now have the to-dos. Take this stuff, use it, share with your friends, get out there, change some hearts and minds, and save some lives, and we will see you next week.